the discussion, I have a question starting, which is like the most upvoted question is for Verena by Marcel. Is do you have any observation whether Obi Drive affects the number of interaction with window or so? Example, are participants using devices less often in order to avoid being asked the question? Sorry, you're muted. Sorry.
No, I said that is a very interesting question. And also for the example, not only if they're using it less often, but especially if they're using more often, because they're like curious to see what is happening. So we gave an info session to explain the participants, and we took actually data of the window actions from the logging from the window read sensors for a longer period of time. So we haven't done that yet, but basically we can see then and compare the window opening actions while we had the app installed and while not, in order to see if it somehow affected the frequency of the response rates.
Great, thank you very much. So I follow up with some question. Another question by Clayton Miller. Is Obi Drive downloadable and usable by other researchers?
Not yet. The idea is to optimize it, and then eventually we can see. So at the moment we're working with local APK files, so it is not downloadable from the Play Store yet or similar, but maybe soon.
Okay. Then on a question as well that was asked is, how did you promote the use of the app? How did you to the user?
Yeah, so like as I mentioned before, we had some detailed info sessions, and in order to explain also what we mean with the different symbols, and if the participants understand actually what we mean, so basically to have like a common goal. And so we did not promote specifically the app. So we have some small incentives for the project participation. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's...
Yeah, so that was exactly a follow-up question by Zoltan. What are the incentives for people to use the app?
Yeah. What also makes it easier is that actually we provided the phones close to the window. So we installed phones, and we did not ask the users to actually use their own phones, right? So this also maybe made it a little bit easier, because they really just have to go there and click. They don't have to scan codes. They don't have to, it's just like an interface directly close to the control. So this might make it a little bit easier.
Very good. Okay, great. Thank you very much for all your answer. I've got now a question for Gary. How do you relate answers to questions such as, in your classroom, do you remember, or to the measurement, did the students say the same, stay in the same room orientation for the whole day?
Yes, they did. For their teaching, they would be in the same room. That would be normal in a UK primary school, that they're pretty much in the same room. You'd have to do it slightly differently in a secondary school, where they do tend to move from room to room.
So for me, a follow-up question is, can we use the same method for different settings? So in this panel, we had office, we had yourself school, we had residential building, we had an app, it could be a different setting. So
yeah, it's such a simple, basic thing. I'm sure you can use it in any setting. It's most relevant to where the environment is varying or where the activities are varying. And you just want to get a snapshot. You don't want to have to keep asking the question again and again and again. You want to get some idea. So you're not getting precise. I'm not saying that people know to the nearest percent how much time they were too hot or too cold. What you're getting is a semi-quantitative impression that tells you, is there a problem? Is there something we should follow up here? Is this at a level where it will start to affect behavior? which is after all what this conference is about. As one example, one of the teachers had such problems with it being too cold that she was wearing a coat while teaching and still feeling cold. So that's just an extreme example of how what they say is too cold immediately affects their behavior.
Yeah, so that was a follow-up question by Clarice Biel de Souza on can people judge percentage properly, or you ask the question how many times during the day?
Well, I think they can answer it properly enough. I think, as I just said, we don't expect it to be precise. So that's the great advantage. You have to ask. You only ask them once. And so on the day of the survey, we could ask them what percentage of that day. We could also ask them on that time, what percentage of your working in the room in winter, what percentage of the time of working in the room is summer, and you get absolutely consistent findings that work across not just thermal comfort, but how it relates to the other environmental variables. And by the way, I think it doesn't have to be you don't have to stick with thermal comfort. You could ask about air quality. You can ask about noise. What percentage of the time is it too noisy? Is important. Not just how loud is it, but it's what percentage of the time is this driving you mad?
And I think that's a common theme. Listening to all your presentation, you had a range for me of questions which were reflective in some form. So and some questions were more at this precise moment. So it's your method is quite interesting because it's tried to capture this part of like a memory as well on the reflection. So do you want to comment on that? Do you think you should have, in standard at the moment, you have at this precise moment, but it's kind of a complement question to that should be added?
Sure. It depends on what's the objectives of asking the question. If you want to know, if you want really good detail of how someone feels, just how cold, how warm at a point in time, clearly that directs you towards something like the ASHRAE or thermal preference sort of scale. If you want to know how people have felt typically in the past, I think you can use the approach that I'm suggesting. Or if it's an environment that is pretty much constant and people are always doing the same thing, then you can ask, what's the typical condition, again on a 7-point scale. So you match to purpose. I think if you are just trying to get a first idea, is there a problem in this indoor space or indeed outdoor space? Here is a really simple, straightforward way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very, very interesting. So one question now is for Professor Madhavi. Despite the few studies available, is there evidence that positive sensation can compensate for negative one in other domains? What would be your hypothesis about this? Thank you. And that's from Mark's Syndicus.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because in my experience, aggregate judgments about a situation, if you ask people, as you just mentioned, is not necessarily fully instantaneous. Mm-hmm. Of course, if you hear a big noise at a certain point in time, you can ask people if that was pleasant or unpleasant. But if you're asking about their evaluation of a certain situation at a certain point in time, it has either a short or a longer history that leads to that aggregate judgment. And it seems that aggregate judgment is not just, if you want, determined by the physically measurable factors of the environment, but also with the associations that people have. There was a nice presentation, our colleague in the acoustics, where she said the attitude towards the neighbors has some effect on how you evaluate the noise emanating from the neighbors. This is something that we know in the last 34 years. So yes, I think the question is, if we exclude this, what I refer to as informational aspect of the stimulus versus cognition process, if we exclude that, we just miss on those variants that is based on that. We just looking and trying, like engineers as we are, we try to say, we got to be able to predict this. Well, we are not, because those boundary conditions in terms of attitudes, in terms of the daily situation, mood, and so on, plays a role. So I think what we can do, as colleagues some years ago suggested, to develop something like a performance plateau, that we say there are a certain combination of variables that generally, if there is no interfering factors, are deemed to be acceptable. And as long as you're in this plateau, the risk of, so to speak, having very negative judgments is low. But within that plateau, you got to be willing to expect that under certain conditions, people will find the situations unpleasant, uncomfortable, or undesirable. And that is something that I think we should take into consideration.
Yeah, a very good point. That you have a much more holistic view of what our environment we are. I have a question for Lucille from Clarice. To what extent your study is showing occupants were misinformed about how much control would they have, i.e. if they were told in advance the limitation in control, would they show the same level of dissatisfaction?
Yeah, so that's a good question related to expectations as well, I guess. And I guess, so one thing is that the people that filled in the survey, they had been living in these houses for 1 to 5 years. So that's also why the study is called Learning to Live in a Low Energy Dwelling, because there was a learning process and most of them went through it. So I can imagine that at the time of the survey, whether what they were told in the beginning was maybe not that important anymore, but it was, however, mentioned by some of the respondents, especially the ones that had just moved in, that they were told very little about what this ventilation system was. For example, they had never had that before, and they were told very little about the trade-offs, about the advantages of it, about why they should not turn it off or tape it, and all of these kind of things. So that definitely had an impact on their satisfaction. They were kind of left without information and knowledge. And I guess that's quite common, unfortunately.
That's a very good point. About capturing user satisfaction, I have a question for Neil. Did you notice if there were certain type of polling station users? For example, were they users who were predictable versus volatile versus mixed? Did you try to cluster people according to their feedback?
Yes, that's a good question. I did notice that they were very different, and there were, I guess, different people profiles. Unfortunately, for the polling station, we don't know. We can't connect each vote to a individual, so we don't know who entered which vote. We only know what we asked in the survey, where we voted. So in the survey, we can match their satisfaction vote in the survey and how often they vote, and also how satisfied they were with thermal conditions, for instance. Okay. So no, we haven't done that kind of analysis, and I don't think it would be too interesting because we have so little data. We looked at some demographics, so people vote about as much as men, young people vote about as much as old people, and so on. Then nothing very interesting there, but dissatisfied people voted a lot. That's for sure.
Okay. So thank you very much, all the panelists. I think that was really interesting. The range as well of methods that you all used in studies. It was all empirical work, and I think that's really conclude this session. There are many other questions. I think we got another, very sorry, another 8 unanswered questions, but I say all of this is captured and will be, Neil, you have a lot of questions for your PhD as a feedback. So yes, so with ready to close this session. Thank you.
I would just add, sorry to bother you, Stephanie, we've now got the closing remarks invitation to expert meeting. If others want to just give a typed answer, feel free to give a typed answer. But as Stephanie says, the questions are collected as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you can type question answer as well to all the open questions. While I want to thank not just all the attendees who have asked questions and the panelists for today's session. I hope you had a great experience, and I hope, in the future we might have other meeting online. I had in the last few days, many have reached out to Philippe and I and Bakar and asked to participate in our meeting, and we're quite grateful that he was online, because for a funding reason or personal reason, they wouldn't have been able to attend a face-to-face meeting. So maybe, as I say, be inclusive and have this kind of mode of sharing knowledge and sharing our work is really quite welcome and would be great in the future. But with further ado, I see Bakar just joined. Bakar, do you want to say just a word for just the closing of the symposium?
Sorry, can you unmute yourself, Bakar, please?
Let me just get myself sorted out here. My presentation. Oh, it's not there. Okay, so well, I can share my slides now. I can't share my slides. Share screen. That. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so basically you're seeing the wrong screen, but there you go. So basically we had 3 sessions, well, 3 sessions today, I think. And these are the ones that are around, and these are the minutes, and also the maximum views that we have, and these are the speakers that we have captured. And you should be proud of yourself. 26 countries, so this is the map for the 26 countries. I'm not really sure how many of you will be around at the end of the expert meeting, and Andreas may have also something to say about what I'm going to say in a minute, which is basically the banner for the Annex 79, which is going to be presented to the next chair. And I think we'll leave that, is it Mikhail, I think? So this will be presented at the end of the Thursday meeting. But to let those people who are not attending, that this is going to be happening as well on Thursday. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And to let you know that there's Andreas, to let you know that after really 2 good fulfilling days of quite a lot of intensive papers, 8 minutes and 10 minutes, everybody stuck to time, and also the 2 minutes, it really worked very well. The questions and answers worked very well. I'm very surprised because I don't really believe on digital platforms, but there you are. Nevertheless, from my point of view, we are very satisfied here. We're really happy to see as many of you attending this meeting. And I hope that you'll be staying on, so that for those who have been invited, so that Andreas and Liam could also talk to you about what's happening in the next 2 days. And I'll leave it to Andreas and Liam to talk now. And thanks very much for me, and goodbye.
Thank you very much. I'll echo that. I thought the last 2 days went flawlessly and actually very wonderful. And it's good that we had such a great participation. I see lots of new faces, so that's really good. So I think if there's a silver lining, it's that we reached out to a lot more people. And I think it's slightly ironic that a few of our Italian colleagues wanted to do a survey for this meeting many, many months ago to assess the carbon footprint of the trip. And I guess the answer is it's probably not very big, but would have been interesting. So I'd like to thank Bakker, Stephanie, Tom, and Philip for the really brilliant execution for this symposium. And also to the chairs and presenters who, again, really coordinated things well, answered questions, to all the audience for asking very constructive questions. And unless Andreas has anything to add to those thoughts, what I would like to do is go ahead.
Actually, not really.
Okay.
The team did a wonderful job, and yeah, it's kind of probably even frightening how well that works, having an online conference instead of coming to a place. This is actually not to say that we wouldn't have loved to be in Southampton and meet you in person and have a few pints in the evenings. But anyway, we will do that later on, and yeah, it worked very, very well.
That is the deal. So every listening must be a witness to this.
So there may be questions about what's happening the next 2 days. So if you're new to the Annex concept, usually we have the symposium before the meeting where the work actually gets done. And the symposium is very open, and everyone presents new ideas and so on. The Annex meeting is not really conference style, although there's a presentation, but it's a bit fluid. But we are about a third of the way through the Annex. So hopefully you can see my screen, and it has the agenda. I thought I'd just give a quick overview of what we can expect in the next 2 days. So first, well, we will start at approximately 10:45 UK time. So a little bit earlier than this morning, which is not great news for the North Americans, but probably beats jet lag. And so we will start with an overview of what is Annex 79. And then we will hear from the 4 sets of subtask leaders on what each subtask is working on, what's been discovered, what's the upcoming tasks or activities for the meeting and beyond. We will do a group photo where we'll ask everyone to share their video, and we will have the first ever Annex 79 online group photo, which should test the capabilities of the system. And then after that, there's breakout sessions. So for the breakout sessions, it will be much like today, except that people will divide into breakout sessions according to their interests and what they're signed up for and whatnot. And the way the system is set up is that our hosts at Southampton will have to manually put you into breakout sessions. So it won't be that easy, although possible, to switch between breakout sessions. So what they've asked is that tomorrow you put a number at the beginning of your name, yourself, put a number at the beginning, and then they can figure out very easily which breakout session to put you in. And the remainder of the meeting has us going between the breakout sessions and the plenary. Although for the rest of the day tomorrow, it will be the breakout sessions. And then the last day, we'll follow with likely a quick plenary and then breakout sessions. And then we'll all come together to talk about what did we do, next steps, some dissemination issues, and so on. So I have a question for Philip and Tom. Did I miss any technical details?
No, I guess the one thing I just want to add to it is that this period it was, go to one meeting, then leave, join another meeting. And here we've given lunch breaks, but in order to assign you to the rooms, we ask that you remain in the meeting with the name. But it will still be a lunch break, so you don't actually have to be at your computer, but for that whole day, we'll be within just the one meeting.
Perfect. And I believe the link to join is in the program online, is that right?
Yes, and we'll be sending out a reminder email tonight to all those that have registered, and in the program, it also will have the link. There's an updated program.
Wonderful. And if people didn't register for the meeting and have suddenly realized that they would like to contribute actively, do they have to manually register, or?
So registration is closed. If you haven't registered in that time, please email either energyandscities@sutton.ac.uk or Stephanie or Bakker, and we will manually register you and send you the information. But if you haven't done that, please do email us as soon as possible.
Perfect. And of course, everyone is welcome to join.
Yes.
I just wanted to warn that it's not exactly conference style like the symposium is.
No, it's
Good.
completely correct. Sorry. It's completely correct. It'll just be in a generic Zoom meeting. And so everybody, when they join, will have access to camera and audio, as opposed to in this where you were attendees or participants or panelists.
Perfect. Andreas, anything else from you?
Well, just to add, the first little challenge will be the roll call tomorrow. So.
But we have a plan.
Yep. No, nothing to add.
Perfect. Anything from the hosts to add?
I think to say thanks very much to both Liam and also to Andreas for their support, and also encouraging us to go ahead with this, which we feel was really quite helpful to all of us. We will be sending an email about the last 2 days, just to give you them a sign up and some indication about how many people attended and so forth. And also a link to the meeting tomorrow and so forth, to ask people to be aware of it with the links in it. And also for those who have not registered, where they can send an email to. So the information will be flowing out straight away when we finish this meeting. But it was very, very good. As I said earlier at the beginning, I've never had a meeting like this, and it was exciting. And I think we'll repeat that if this time, if we have the same conditions imposed on us. Otherwise, face-to-face is better for me.
Wonderful, thank you.
Good.
So in the tradition of IEA, I hope everyone goes to have a drink and good food. After all, the E unofficially stands for eating. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see most of you tomorrow.
All right.
Great.
Bye-bye then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you.
So Philip, do we stay in to just talk about the roll call?
I think it would be quite useful if you and Liam could stay. I sent you a message. So we just wait until the others, so maybe exit this, Philip, and try it again.
Yep.
Yes, or we can just go into a standard. So in that email, I popped the standard meeting details.
Which email?
Well, no, okay. I'll just close this meeting and then open up the webinar again. That's fine. Don't worry. So just re-click on this webinar. But thank you, everybody else. Just closing the meeting now.